The Author versus the Werewolf. A Mutant Ideas production by Bill Couture and Chris Marti. Original music by Cosmic Monster.
Epilogue, Part 1, The Face in the Fire. I could swear that the fire was howling behind me. Too terrified to look back, I stumbled towards the tree line like the werewolf was still chasing me. Fuck it, I looked. The fire bloomed into the night sky above the cabin and belched plumes of black smoke into the starless sky. The flames lit the mass from below, but in the darkness snarled the warped and twisted face of the werewolf. I braced myself against the closest tree. The pain from the fight with the damned thing vanished as the reality began to sink in that this was not a simple werewolf, if there was such a thing as a simple werewolf. Its glowing red eyes stared through me with an inescapable knowing. If it was a man at some point, what transformed it was not from this world in any conventional sense. Did it come from within? Did it come from Earth? Hell? The squirrel called it the devil. I didn't believe that it served such a higher purpose. It didn't seem to know, so how could I assume? The roof of the cabin gave way and crumbled into itself. Another howl echoed through the woods. The trees trembled and the leaves hissed. I felt a strange sort of electricity flood through my body and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. A sudden gust of wind from behind me blew my bloody matted hair into my eyes. The howl climbed higher and higher until it matched the pitch of the wind. Gone. It's gone. The smoke was smoke, and the fire was fire. I didn't believe it was actually gone. Maybe it went to possess someone else. Maybe it returned to whatever liminal place that it came from. Who cares at this point? Part 2. The Woods at Night. The light from the fire died out the further away I got from the cabin, and was replaced with damp New England cold. I would have to count the cuts and broken bones later when I can see more than 3 feet in front of my face. One step, pain. The next, more pain. Out of these woods. I needed to get out of these woods. I didn't care how or if I died on the way. Anything not to spend the rest of my life in this hell. I vomited into a ditch on the side of the road, a mix of blood and bile based on the foul smell and harsh metallic aftertaste. I hoped that I was following the path to where the bridge was washed away. The faint sound of the rushing water was my only compass. Everything was a blur, part from loss of blood, part because my glasses were broken in the fight and left for dead with the werewolf. Step. Pain. Another step. Pain. It was the most welcome tumble of my life. I fell into the ditch just before the river. The sound of water was close, but its roar mellowed to a bubbling growl. The fall was a welcome rest. I knew I had come as close as I could before the threshold. Each breath shocked me to consciousness. I wasn't even close to halfway back to civilization, but this was the first time I felt comfortable taking a rest, even if for a few minutes to stare at the sky and its great mysteries. Unfortunately, the reality is, the only great mystery of the universe I was concerned with is if and how I could get across the river. Dive in and drown? Float downstream and lose the road in the darkness? If I made it to the other side, could I climb up the embankment? Leaves rattled and hissed at me, a cold threat to move my ass before I pass out. Everything I knew about concussions came from books, movies, and TV, and all of those make-believe experts said, "Don't fall asleep." Part 3. To cross the river. I fell asleep. Not for long. At least, I think not for long. It was still pitch black. The moon didn't move any more than I did. Maybe it fell asleep too. Climbing out of the ditch proved more difficult than falling into it. All of the pain that dulled with time came flooding back. My nervous system recoiled and I almost fainted again. I was running out of time to get the fuck out of here. The answer to my conundrum knocked me on my ass. More accurately, I tripped over it, an uprooted tree. I could hold onto it like an organically grown pool noodle and paddle to the other side. Right? That could work. I convinced myself it would because I didn't have any other ideas. especially no good ones. There was a lot that I wasn't prepared for, but the chill of the water was almost as deadly as the werewolf. The log slipped from my grasp. I floundered and reached in every direction until I found my makeshift flotation device. The shore, go, just swim. The cold strangled the air out of me and paralyzed my limbs. I gasped, forcing my lungs to squeeze in some air, and through stubbornness or luck made my legs kick and free arm paddle between shutters. It was impossible to tell how far I swam or how quickly I was getting pulled downstream. The world spun and threatened to disappear each time I sank beneath the waves. I imagined fish cheering beneath me and the squirrel chanting in tongues. The fish might have been cheering for me to drown. Who doesn't want a free midnight snack? The shore was suddenly in front of me. I flung myself from the log and grabbed onto some roots protruding from the embankment. My teeth chattered. My sight darkened as my body tried to shut down. It knew it went through hell and needed to take a goddamn rest. I heard the log snap as it rolled over some rocks downstream. No going back. No help from the squirrel. No help from the trees. No hope of anything but up and over. Root by root, hand over hand. I noticed the ring finger of my left hand was twisted unnaturally to the side and realized I had no recollection of when or how it was broken. Time in the forest was spongy and amorphous. Time between the river and pulling myself on shore felt as long as the whole stay. The next reach filled my hand with grass and dirt. The next and the next were much of the same until I rolled over onto my side and once again vomited and blacked out. Part 4. The Long Road. I couldn't believe how much bile is stored in the human stomach. On second thought, it may have been more blood than digestive juices that wanted to escape from me as much as I wanted to escape. Step. Pain. Another step. More pain. The familiar rhythm returned, this time peppered with shivering, coughing, and sniffling. I told myself that it can't get me anymore. I told myself it burnt up in the fire. I told myself what I saw in the smoke was my concussed brain trying to make sense of something so unnatural that should never have been perceived by human eyes. I told myself these things over and over as the moon sank, knowing them all to be lies. The woods on this side of the river were just as tall but missing their darkness. The trees were just as threatening to look at, but not as oppressive in their return gaze. Their leaves didn't hiss in the wind, only whispering amongst themselves in the cool breeze. Step. Pain. Another step. Pain. Part 5. The Escape. Convenience store number 7 peeked out from behind a bend in the road. The sun rose some miles again and did its honest best to dry my clothes. That's not saying it did much, but I was no longer dripping and squelching with every step. The autumn leaves skittered across the cracked and broken asphalt. I could have stopped there and passed out. Surely someone would have noticed the bloody mess of hair and flannel eventually. But eventually was a word I'd lived with for so long that I was not about to surrender to it yet again. My cracked phone in my pocket flapped against my leg. I didn't think it would work, but it wasn't like leaving it behind would have lightened the load. A rusty silver pickup swung into the parking lot, blaring some type of abrasive heavy metal that went out of style in 1999. A bald, doughy man in his 50s emerged from the driver's seat, grumbled something unintelligible at the sun-dried woman in the passenger seat, presumably his wife, then turned and sauntered into the convenience store. The sun-dried woman hung a cigarette on her lips while she unscrewed the gas cap and set the pump to work. The ringing clang of the gas pump's bell cut through the screaming metal music as the gas filled. She flicked a Zippo lighter over and over as she stepped away from the pump, then lit the cigarette as she passed the rusted bicycle still chained to the store. The missing child sign was gone, along with its back tire. I watched the scene with dead eyes. My legs were stuck in neutral and my mind couldn't press the gas. Ding! The sun-dried woman flicked ash from her cigarette into a rusted bucket. Ding! I snapped myself out of the daze and forced my legs to resume my staggering towards the parking lot, my mouth open to call for help but nothing came out. Ding! 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 A family of squirrels startled the sun-dried woman by leaping across the low-hanging branches of the tree next to her. I was close enough to see into the convenience store and pushed myself faster and faster. Almost there. Ding! Almost to help. Ding! Someone. Anyone. Ding! People. Ding! Water. Ding! Ding! A Band-Aid. Ding! Hydrogen peroxide. Ding, ding. A bottomless margarita. Ding, ding, ding. Muffled screaming boomed from inside the tiny store. I couldn't make out the details without my glasses, but the doughy man was leaning over the counter and shaking his finger at the diminutive woman behind it. What in the fuck? Ding, ding. A gust of wind blew through the trees. Another family of squirrels squawked to warn each other of nothing in particular. Ding. It didn't matter what in the fuck. I was at the front door. The reflection that greeted me was an unrecognizable golem of dried mud and blood. With every ounce of strength left, I flung open the door and managed to squeeze out the first 3 letters of help before the doughy man screamed at me. "Alright, get the fuck out, man. You ain't buying shit here." I tried to argue, but my throat only let out a dry whistle. "I'll call the cops. That's right, get out." The clerk behind the counter was just as welcoming as the doughy man. "If this guy takes another step inside, you won't have to." The doughy man started to take a step towards me. This wasn't the place or time for a showdown. I could barely stand, let alone think straight. With my tail between my legs, I backed out of the store and staggered back into the parking lot. Was this where I was going to die? I could see the pathetic headline. Missing author found dead in convenience store parking lot. The rap metal song blaring from the pickup ended with a long chord ringing out into the quiet air. Not today. Not after everything. I lunged towards the pickup truck. My legs shook with every step. My arms wailed as I struggled to keep balance. The song changed to something familiar from the same era as the rap metal. I couldn't place the artist from the opening chords. Step, pain. Another step, pain. Another gust of wind. Another rattling of leaves, more squirrels chirping. My eyes darted to the store. The doughy man was still berating the underpaid clerk. I grabbed the gas nozzle and looked over my shoulder. The sun-dried woman was still smoking and watching the squirrels. Ding! I yanked the hose from the truck, replaced it on the pump, pulled myself into the driver's seat, started the engine, slammed on the gas. I caught a glimpse of the sun-dried woman spinning around to look and scream as the truck peeled out onto the road. The poor truck was being pushed to its limit. Not as much as I was, but it wasn't used to the strain. The engine jumped and choked each time the automatic transmission switched gears to accommodate the demands of my foot pushing the pedal to the floor. A Roadrunner bobblehead on the dash rattled, and the bundle of faded pine tree air fresheners flapped from the wind whipping through the open windows. Nothing mattered anymore. I was on my way back to civilization. I looked around the cab, hoping to find some water, food, alcohol, speed, coffee, chewing gum, anything to make this real. The best I could do was an open water bottle in the cup holder and a charger from my phone dangling from the cigarette lighter. It couldn't hurt to try. I guzzled the water, plugged the phone into the charger, and laid it in the passenger seat with the shattered screen face up. "Come on, you son of a bitch. If I made it this far, you can too." I mumbled a quiet prayer to no one and squinted my eyes to try to make out if I was driving on the right side of the road. It didn't matter much, but being short-sighted has its disadvantages when driving into oncoming traffic. The road stretched out in front of me. No traffic, no cars, no people. I was alone again, flying down an empty highway towards anywhere instead of away from everyone. Time blurred as much as my vision. With the full tank of gas, I wasn't about to slow down. Where the hell am I going? Does anyone know I'm alive? These questions and more raced through my mind. Reality as I knew it was broken, so it wasn't exactly easy to parse out such conventional thoughts. The truck bucked from a broken section of asphalt and snapped me out of a daze. I took a deep breath and shook off the delirium as best as I could. The exit signs were impossible to read without my glasses, but I knew it was still too close to those woods for me to stop. How long have I been white-knuckling the truck? How much longer will I? My hands smeared sweat, mud, and blood onto the steering wheel. I tried to wipe the muck onto my tattered jeans, but only managed to pick up more mud and leaves. Fuck it. I wiped the disgusting cocktail of filth onto the middle seat. A gentle vibration startled me, something I hadn't felt since before the werewolf. My phone screen lit up through the shattered glass. I swallowed a deep gulp as anxiety creeped up from my knees to the back of my neck. The vibrating started again, and again, and again. Notification after notification flashed across the screen. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I felt the blood drain from my face. My eyes went wide with fear, and with one hand still white-knuckling the wheel, I reached towards the phone. Buzz, buzz, buzz. How long was I in the woods? Buzz, 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 buzz. I glared at the date and squinted harder and harder but couldn't make it out. I clenched the steering wheel. My body shook. My phone continued its cries for attention, and I thought of the werewolf out there in the woods and wondered why it chose to be alone and why people isolate. The end.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe at Mutant Ideas, www.mutantideas.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, you are not alone with your thoughts. This has been a Mutant Ideas production of The Author versus the Werewolf. Story by Bill Couture and Chris Marti. Narrated by Chris Marti and featuring Lina Dunn as the Squirrel. Original music by Cosmic Monster. The Author versus the Werewolf Illustrated Storybook and soundtrack cassette tape coming soon.